Welcome to another episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Hello, and welcome back to Artistry. Again, we are Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. If you are joining us for the first time or if you're returning, please be sure to like and subscribe to learn more about our artists, our artist friends, because our friends are dope. Listen for more episodes of different artists, both visual arts as well as performing arts. But today we have a very special guest with us today. He is a hip hop artist, also an educator, youth activist. Sorry.
And advocate
Right. For the youth.
Right.
Please join us in giving a warm welcome to our dear friend, Asheru. Ash, welcome to the show. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you for being here.
Thank you for coming through, bro.
Yes, indeed. You know that.
You know, one of the things we love about doing the show is because we have some incredibly talented friends, and you think you know somebody, but then when you learn their story and learn their journey, like, damn, I didn't even know all that. So we are so humbled and just so appreciative to have our guests, you know, to really show us their path. And so again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me anytime. Y'all know.
So we are going to get started. I know as a fellow, you know, Caribbean baby, you know, it's the how we navigate this Americanness is very unique for the average colored folk. So give us some feedback. Let us know how and, you know, what part of the Caribbean your family is from. And what was that like, you know, growing up, you know, with having traditional, you know, trying to maintain tradition and culture, but also dealing with, you know, American society and American culture.
Well, you know, I guess I would be considered like a half and half because my dad is from Barbados, but my mom is from Edgefield, South Carolina. You know what I mean? So I had a little bit of both growing up. I had a lot of both growing up. So, but yes, there are definitely some differences and just how I was raised. Because what Caribbean parents are strict. Very dominant, and so we just kind of had to. I was on a regime. I was on a regimen. You know what I mean? In my books, doing what I had to do. Whereas on my mom, when I was with my mom and living with her, you know, it was a lot more lax. Just a lot more like do what makes you happy, and you know. So there's that conflict. You know, not conflict, but there's that kind of difference in the way that. The rearing was done, but you know, all around, I had a little bit of both. So I grew up. My parents met in D.C. I was born in Columbia, Maryland. You know, my dad was like, "We not having this baby in no D.C. hospital. We going out here with them." You know, I was born in Columbia, Maryland. But the funny thing is, I ended up moving right back. I mean, I was raised in Mount Pleasant in Northwest D.C. So I grew up there. Right. My whole childhood up until about middle school, and then in middle school I actually moved to we all moved to Barbados for about 2 years. So I did middle school in Barbados, which is again totally different. School is totally different down there than it is here. And then I came back here the end of my 9th grade year, and I ended up going to Mackin. It's like a Catholic all boys high school here in DC. And that closed down. The school closed down and moved into Carroll. And I ended up moving out to Woodbridge, Virginia, and doing my last years of high school out there. And then that's how I ended up going to UVA. And then my whole life just spinning from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Throughout that process, what would you say was the first time you were exposed to the arts?
I mean, it's always, you mean like in school or just in general?
Just in general. Yeah, just in general.
Like, especially like when you were like fully aware of it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think music was probably just always around, always present. I remember having a conversation with my dad in the early, like in the 80s about hip hop. Him being like, yeah, it's just a fad. This ain't going. It's just some stuff the kids are doing. It ain't gonna be nothing. And I remember him saying that. I still remember him saying that. But yeah, music has always been around, and I think it just kind of formulated my identity growing up. Because the other thing is, so part of going to school in Barbados and coming back here, when I came back here, I was in the 9th grade, but I was 12 years old. So by the time I graduated, I was 15. I was 16 when I graduated high school. But you got to understand, from 12 to 16, all my friends were 14 to 18. You know what I mean? And so the music I was listening to, how I was coming up, it just raised me. Like NWA, Big Daddy Kane, Ice-T, Rakim, KRS-One, X-Clan, Latifah, MC, like all of that formulated my identity of who I was, you know what I mean, as a Black person in America. So when you ask how did I navigate it, I learned it through hip hop, you know what I mean? And it got to the point where I was copying lyrics down in a notebook and just memorizing songs. And, you know, I was really about it, you know. And so that kind of shaped my whole everything. I tell people to this day, I learned everything from hip hop. Like even to this day, I only shake hands with my right hand because of Q-tip. I will never give you my left hand to shake your hand, only because that's how I was raised. You know what I'm saying? I don't eat pork. People ask me, am I Muslim? I'm not Muslim. Rakim don't eat pork.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? That's just how I was raised. I feel like that was as much of, that was like hip hop is like my third parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I live by that the idea of what it was to me and what it means to me, you know. So yeah, that's kind of how I learned to navigate everything.
Right. When did you first pick up the pen or pick up the mic? When, like, how old were you? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Yeah, I was it wasn't until college, to be honest. I was like 16, 17, freestyling in the basement, drinking 40 and, you know, just doing whatever. And people were like, yo, you should really try this shit. Like, you good, man. Like, oh, man. And then I started writing spoken word. You know, at that time, like spoken word poetry was big. It was like, you know, that was another
Love Jones.
Yeah, right. Like, poetry was a big deal. So I started writing like these spoken word pieces, and then I was performing them like rhymes, and then I just started writing rhymes, and that was pretty much it. And so around 17, and I through college I was performing in a experimental improv band. I was in a hip hop band in college.
Wow.
Called Immortal Thoughts in Charlottesville, Virginia, and we never practiced. We just got on stage and jammed out. Like we never had a rehearsal, nothing. It was just kind of like, all right, you got it, Johnny, you got it, okay, go. And then we just, you know, perform. But that was kind of how it started. And then my boy at the time, Wes Jack, my boy that I went to college with, started Seven Heads, and me and Blue Black, who also went to UVA. You know, we all went to that school. That school is kind of the bedrock for everything that I'm doing, that I've done musically. That was where it really all started.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Blue Black, man. I discovered you a few different times, a few different ways. The first time was the magazine I showed you, where at that time I hadn't heard your music yet, but basically I was in Japan, and then I interviewed with that magazine at the time. It was a really popular hip hop magazine. And they did like a 2-page spread, just talking to me about working with Nujabes and the new album and all of that. And this is like maybe 2000. And then the next page, you flip the next page, and there you are. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't know you, which was crazy. The next page, there you are, and there's Blue Black, and it was the Unspoken Herd. And it's funny, man. Like every store that I went in where there was a display with my album, your album was right next. It was like it was predestined. You know what I mean? Like y'all gonna know me.
Right there. Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's your man's right there. You know what I'm saying? That's your people's.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And then Yeah, it's crazy, man. And then the second time, I think when I first heard you, like, because back then I would see it all the time, but I hadn't heard the music. But the first time I heard you, we were living in Brooklyn, and there was this Lyricist Lounge compilation project, not the double album, but they did like some the cover was like brown with a little bit of blue, something like that. I forget what it was called. But you just had this crazy blackout verse, dog. Like, it was just this long verse. And I'm like, yeah, this dude is nice. And then you said something about the area. And I was like, oh, Annie from the hometown. Yeah, been a fan for a minute, man. And it's dope to kind of, it's always cool to kind of, you connect with people later on. Cause I don't think we actually met and connected until we did that greatest hip hop story ever told or whatever, the play joint that was happening down the street from your crib. So as quick as I got to kick it with you, then I kicked it with you at the crib, and I was like, yeah, full circle, man.
Full circle, man.
Yeah,
and next, we out here hitting these blurred cons and
yeah,
every time, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, that's dope, man. So it's been this story been building for some years, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, 2 decades in the making, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Definitely.
So you had mentioned earlier that you graduated high school very young. So did you skip? Like, how did that process work? And how was that when you went to college? You're surrounded by all these grown people.
Grown women too.
And grown women.
Right. These grown women.
Right. I skipped. Well, yeah, I skipped like kindergarten or something like that when I was a kid here. But then when I went abroad and came back, the conversion, I guess the way that the grade equivalence was, I came, when I got here, I was at a 9th grade equivalent. So they in high school. And and it was crazy because, think about it. You're in Barbados when you're in class and your teacher comes in the room. First of all, when they walk in the room, it's like when the judge walks in the courtroom. When they walk in the room, everybody stands up.
Right.
Wow.
That's the first thing, right? Like, I just out of respect. It's not even a question. Nobody would dare sit down. Teacher comes in, we stand up. They sit down, you sit down. When you raise your hand to ask a question, you have to stand up and you have to project and say blah, blah, blah. So when I came here for high school, seriously, yo, like my first maybe 2 months in, I'm at this all boys Catholic night, like all black high school, and these youngins was wilding. Like my first 2 months, I remember seeing my geometry teacher like in my face, like I'm sitting in class. I watched my geometry teacher get jumped by 2 students, and like a globe thrown on his head, the whole 9. And I just remember getting home that day, like, yo, take me out of this school right now. These kids is wild, and it was just like a totally different rapport between teacher and student. It was culture shock. I didn't, but you got to think about it. We were in the cocaine 80s. There was a lot going on at that time. A lot of my friends in high school was hustling. There was a lot of stuff going on. So, they just had a different attitude in there. And in Barbados, it was like nowhere. I mean, they would never imagine school being that way. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, that was like a kind of a culture shock, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was your original question?
You answered it. You answered it. Because it's like, how did it? The other question I do have is, Asheru, where did the name come from?
So when I was in college, again, rhyming and finding myself, I was heavy into Rastafari. So I was reading like 5% God Body Lessons, Rastafari, super heavy Rastafari. And, in the 12 tribes of Israel, there's a tribe designated for each month of the year. And I had this book that had like each of the tribes and the months, and I was born in December. The tribe that was designated for December was Asher. And so I used that as like the basis, and then I just made it from the time I was like 17, 18, my name was Asheru. I named myself, you know what I mean? And And so, and people never really asked me what it meant. They just said that's his name, you know. And as time went on, like I started seeing other breakdowns like Asheru, and I'm big into like Egyptology and all that. So I was just like, you know, this name like found me as much as I found it. So that's kind of just how I've had that name for 30 years.
Wow.
Before I was really rapping, I had that name.
Wow.
But I mean, that was my like spiritual. That's my spiritual name that I gave myself, and I just made it my name when I started like making music.
You mentioned studying, you know, Rastafari and Egyptology. Is that what influenced you to study anthropology in undergrad?
Definitely. So funny thing. So I got to college, right? 16. No, that was the other part of your question. I got to college at 16. There's a lot of distractions. I had never lived on my own ever. I was only 16. Where would I even have that chance to do it? So I'm living in a room by myself, first year college. No parents. I'm 2 hours away from home. No rules. I'm just out here. And I fumbled the ball so bad that first semester. I mean, I flunked everything. I might have got 1 D.
Wow.
And my dad was like, "Nah, you gotta come back home." You know what I mean? And so I fought, kicked, and screamed, but I came back home for the second semester. I was going to GW for that semester. Hated it, but I went. But the silver lining of all that is while I was back here and going to school at GW, I landed a job at the Smithsonian. And so I was working at the National African American Museum. Before it was a museum, it was called the National African American Museum Project. And so we were just a small cubicle group of Black folks trying to get a national museum on the mall. And I was like 19, 18, no, about 18 at this point, because I had come home and I was I took like almost took a year off basically because I was working now at the Smithsonian. I had badge. I thought I made it. I was like, I don't even need college now. I'm lit. I got a job already, you know. While I was there, while I was at the museum project, there's a woman named Deb Willis. She's a world-renowned photographer, archivist. She's amazing. But Deb Willis, she was like, "Nah, baby, go back to school. Just go back to school. You ain't missing nothing. When you get out, this job will be here. We ain't gonna have a museum for at least a few more years. You good, right?" Really talked me into going back. And while I was at the Smithsonian, I was literally in their libraries. I was researching. It was like people who were going to the Blue Mountain in Jamaica and filming Rosses. I was like looking at archival footage, stuff that just wasn't even public. I was able to see and have all of that at my disposal. So I really thought I was like, I made it, you know.
Right.
But going back to school, I ended up going back to school because my mother and Deb and everybody was like, "Go back to school." And when I went back to school, it was like I just had a renewed focus. I knew I was like, this is what I'm going to study. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to experience different cultures. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be Anthony Bourdain before Anthony Bourdain.
Right.
This is what I see myself doing. And it's funny that since then, you know, and just because hip hop's been able to take me all over the world, and I've been able to engage in all different cultures and eat all these different, you know, it's like what I said I wanted to do is just was in a different, I didn't know it was going to be through hip hop. I thought I was going to be doing it like as a cultural anthropologist. And I am. I'm just a hip hop person.
Right.
You know,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And so, and you also got your master's degree in education, National Louis University. Is it Louis or Louis?
National Louis.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, got to check, see if they put that whole French twang on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I got my master's in education. It's in curriculum and instruction specifically. And I really did that because when I was teaching, I had hit a paywall. Like I had hit a ceiling. I couldn't get any more money. And I remember going to sign my new contract and the lady gave me my contract and I was signing it and I was like, and she saw my face like, yeah, I know. She's like, you know, if you got a master's, your salary would just go up like exponentially. And I was like, what? So let me go ahead and give me one of those. And that's literally, that was my only motivation. And I went and got one, you know what I mean? But it was also in alignment with what I was trying to do. And that's how help and all of that stuff came about, from just trying to get this curriculum and instruction down, just being a frustrated teacher and wanting to do better.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Which ultimately led to you like creating Guerilla Arts Ink as well, right?
Yeah, I ended up creating Guerilla Arts. You know, all of that started, that's all U Street family. I mean, it all started and was inspired by our collective, our arts collective, because, you know, I was working at a school, a private school for special ed students. These are like level 4, level 5 kids. If you know, and just so you know what that means, it's like students who are not in, they're not included in a general public school. They have to be, they're like separated from the school system.
Yeah.
And so, and there were kids from all over the city, but we were at this uptown swanky location, like in Van Ness. And so every day I was in there working at this school, and I remember asking my guidance counselor one day, well, one of the problems with this that I was seeing at the school is, first of all, I had kids who were like, I was teaching 7th grade when I started there, and those kids were reading on a 3rd grade reading level. And I was like, come on, bro, like, how do we do this? You know what I mean? And then as time went on, I started moving and grooving in the school, and I saw that kids were graduating, but they were just graduating and going home. They weren't going to anything post-secondary, whatever. And I just said, you know what? Let me try to bring in like the people I know that could at least give them some post-secondary options, you know? So like literally my band at the time, the L's, I had Zoe, shout out to Zoe, shout out to Omar. They came on board as teaching artists, like a TA to help the music teacher. Sub Z from Open Soccer Band, Terrence, he came in and taught martial arts. Bill, who was in Black Lincolns, he did a lot of our graphic design stuff. He came in and taught art and graphic design. We had a sister that taught fashion merchandising. We had like all of these different artists. Claude Nadir, rest in peace. He was an English teacher, but he was doing it from the hip hop perspective. So I just basically ended up hiring all these people at the school. And after like 3 years of us doing this, we saw a change in the culture of the school, and it went from none of our kids ever graduating and doing anything post-secondary to the 3rd year of us doing it. We had 14 kids graduate, and 9 of them went on to something post-secondary. Like some went to engineering school, studio engineering, some went to chef school. I'm still in contact with some of these kids now. Like one of the ones who went to culinary school, he just catered my son's birthday 2 years ago. And this kid, I knew he was 15. Actually, Ernest, you know Ernest. Ernest was the guy that did the cookout at Malcolm X outside for the kids.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
You know what I mean? It went through this kind of guerrilla arts training in it, like back in the day. So once we saw that this was a need and something we could do, I was like, yo, we got to make this happen. And then the other beauty of it is a lot of the artists I'm working with don't hold 9-to-5 jobs. They're not going to clock in 9 to 5. They are on tour, or they might have to do something for 2 months and come back, or they can't commit 9 to 5 for a full year. And to be honest, the schools didn't have the budget to hire anybody full time for a year. So it was one of those things where it's like the schools got a minimal budget. These artists just need that little minimal budget to pay their bills and keep going. So it was just like putting it all together, and the schools got what they need, the kids got what they need, the artists got what they need, and we were just able to keep that ecosystem going. And that was in 2005, so 2006. So we're 15 years running right now in DC, and still working with schools and still doing this work, you know. And that's how, you know, we've even worked together in some capacity. So, you know, we're still doing it. Even with COVID, man, we pivoted, but we're still out here doing that work.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I've always, whenever I mention you to someone else and they are like just trying to figure out more about like teaching artists in the area, arts education and things like that, I'm like, yeah, you need, I got the brother you need to speak to. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like the unofficial mayor of this city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, true. This is all I do, man. This is I live, breathe, and speak this stuff.
Yeah. What would you say has been, in the 15 years that you've been doing this, has been your biggest challenge?
Funding.
Yeah.
And not necessarily funding, because it's not funding specifically. It's learning how to strategically partner, and because we're a for-profit, we're a social business. We're a community business that does social good. So you can do both. You can make money and perform social good, you know. And so people have always tried to push us in the nonprofit box, and I'm like, nah, how am I gonna pay these artists? If I'm in a nonprofit box, I can only give them $15 an hour. If I'm for profit, I can pay you $100 for showing up. I can pay you $75 an hour. You know what I mean? And I have. So my thing is, it's like, it's just a mentality thing, and it's trying to get other people on that page. I get it, but it's trying to get other people on that page. And so I've had to just really be strategic over the years with how I partner up and who I work with and how we can just, you know, find creative ways to get this bag. Like last year, I wrote about 3 or 4 grants. But last year, and now I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say it with the caveat: this money did not come to me. Okay,
right.
Disclaimer. I wrote like 3 or 4 grants. I mean, we raised about $600,000 for different projects, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, if I can do that for other people that I'm collaborating with, I know I can do that for myself. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of partnering up and doing things correctly. And I've taken lumps over the years, man. I learned the hard way. I done burned some bridges and rebuilt some. And, you know, I done went through it all. You know what I mean? But for me, it's all worth the lessons that I'm getting out of and how to move forward and be better. You know, so we're at a new point now, and this COVID was the great reset. You know, for me, it just really allowed me to like reanalyze what's going on, be able to cut dead weight of things that aren't in alignment. You know, like I tell my mentees, you know, I'm just trying to stay in alignment with my assignment. If I can do that, I'll be straight. If it's something that's not in alignment, I have to learn to say no. I say yes to everything. I've been learning to say no to stuff, and that's been hard. You know what I mean? Because you get excited. Somebody tell you, yo, I'm about to do, and you know, it's like I call it like I'm an energy philanthropist. I don't give money. I'll seed your company with time and energy. Like I'll get all on board and help you out. And I'm not doing what I'm doing. I'm not in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So I had to learn to like stop doing that. Even for family and like friends and people that, you know, that I love, I had to like really put them boundaries up so that I could stay focused. So that's really a big thing that this year has taught me, is how to like reel it back in, because I'll go off the rails. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
So speaking of pivoting, I want to go back to you as a performing artist. Do you remember your first time on tour and what that experience was like?
First time on tour, we went to England. We went to the UK. Brighton Beach was our first city.
Wow.
And I just remember being like, yo, this is so lit. Like we made it. And we did like we did a show for like 70 people in this smoky club, but it was the fact that we were abroad and staying in a hotel. The hotel was on the beach. I heard the water crash, and when I woke up, like it was that vibe. I really was feeling myself. Like, I can't believe I'm in England off this music.
Right.
You know? And then the very next tour we did, like maybe a month or 2 later, was the biggest, probably one of the biggest tours I ever did. I was on tour with Jill Scott, Rich Medina, Bilal, and Dombey, King Britt, Ursula Rucker.
Oh my God.
Me and Blue Black, and I think that was it. But Spinner and DJ Spinner. Now we're on the flight together, in the van together, at the hotel together, at the venue together. This is before Jill put her first album out. Like, we were again, and this was all through Amsterdam. We did a 2-day festival in Amsterdam. I was just like, man, the combination of Amsterdam and being with all these like incredible people, some of my favorite artists to this day, that was something that I don't even think we fully captured while we were in the moment of it. Like,
wow,
it was magical, you know what I mean? But that was my second tour. And then from there, I just ended up going like annually, I would go back out and do like all through Germany, like all through Eastern Europe, or like all through England, or all through a certain area with other clusters of groups like Me and J Live, or Ed O.G. or Wordsworth or Jay Sands, or you know, and sometimes I bring like other artists with me, like RBI came out on some tours with us back then, DJ Style, like went to Japan. That was like a big deal. That was the first time my dad ever saw me perform. And remember, I told you, he said hip hop was a passing thing. Yeah. He never came to any shows in DC, even when he lived in DC. But then my dad moved to Japan. He lives in Japan.
Oh wow!
And I called him and I was like, "Dad, I'm gonna be in Tokyo next week I'm doing this DMC DJ battle thing, and I'm gonna be performing." He was like, "What? All right, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come to the show. Send me the information." I send him the information. He comes to the show, and when the show is over, I'm like signing stuff and selling stuff at my little table. And my dad, the whole time, his face, he just looking at me like, "What?
You did it,
hell? I can't believe this is like you really doing this shit." I was like, "Yeah, man, that's what I've been telling you for like I don't know 10 years. I'm doing this shit." Like, but yeah, that was his first time ever seeing me perform. Was in Tokyo.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yo, how would you, this is always a tough question for most artists, but like when you think of your style and the kind of music you've made over the years, like how would you summarize it? Like how would you describe your style, the type of hip hop you make?
It's I always just look at it like it's like soulful is a word I always think of when I think about music. My music, it's just like I just think of words. It's not really a sentence. Like I can't really market it. It's black, soulful, honest, and it's not. I don't want to say compassionate, but it's like it has empathy to it. Like my music has a certain empathy to what I'm saying and my perspective and how I'm saying it, and I think that's what my thing is. Like I even when I listen to my old stuff, I listen to some of the stuff I'm saying, and I'm like, damn, that wasn't even real when you said it. It's real now, but when you said it, it was just a wish. You know what I mean? Right. A lot of my music is like intention. It's like potential. It's speaking things into existence more than it's like me trying to document my life. I wake up, then I do this. That's not really my thing. My thing is more like I'm giving you an aerial view of what could be.
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at my music. And I know that I've had people tell me for years, like, man, you just need to switch your content up. You already nice. You just be rapping about, they don't want to hear that shit. Like some people tell me that, but that's never stopped how I do it, because if I don't feel it, then I can't do it.
Right.
So I'm only giving you shit that I feel. Like I've made it and I'm like, no doubt. That's when you hear it. You know what I mean? If I'm doing something other than that, I just it'll never see the light of day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, and the beautiful thing is you doing it on your own terms and how you chose to do it. It ultimately led to you touring the world. You know what I mean? Going to these different places. I mean, how many people can say they performed in a fraction of the places you've performed, let alone their father's first time seeing them live was in Japan? Like, right. Like that is so unique in itself. And then, I mean, and fast forward, like all of this ultimately like also leads to you, doing the opening theme for the Boondocks. You know what I mean? You know, definitely. Please, like, give a little background on that. Of course, you know, I've been present for the story a million times. We know it, but we never assume everyone knows it. You know what I mean?
We never get tired of listening to it.
So, so I met Aaron. Aaron was a part of this group called the Soul Controllers at University of Maryland with DJ Book, Bushhead Ed, and Stylist. And at the time, we had put out Jamboree. It was an EP I had put out called Jamboree. And this was like 99, 2099. And we went to the radio show to promote the single, to promote Jamboree. So I'm up there, we're doing the interview with her. And Aaron turns to me and he's like, yo, when I get my TV show, I want you to do my theme song, bro. And I was like, no doubt. Let me know, man. Sounds great. This is when it was still a cartoon, a comic strip. So I was like, sounds great, man. Like, let me know. And then years go by. I'm in LA at an education conference, and I see Aaron in the hotel lobby that I'm staying in. He just literally walks right into this hotel lobby. Didn't expect to see him. I jump up like, yo. Went and hollered at him. I was like, look, I'm working on this new music. It was Insomnia at the time, the mixtape Insomnia. I gave it to him. And I was like, yo, man, listen to it. Give me a call. Let me know what you think, blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, bet. He calls me back like 2 days later, like, yo, this is dope. You know, we're getting closer to the show. It's going to happen. You know, I'll just keep you posted as things go. So I'm like, all right, bet. A couple more years go by. I'm in LA at a Mos Def concert. And the let out, we all out on the street walking to the cars and stuff. And I see who? Aaron McGruder. Again, just like literally just spotting him in these weird, not weird, but different places unexpectedly. So, by the way, those are affirmations. That's how God lets you know something happened. But anyway, so I go talk to him, and we go to In-N-Out Burger after the show. We sitting there eating and talking. And he's like, look, man, I'm working with the Hudlin brothers. It's serious now. We about to do this. I got the contracts. I'm gonna send you the track. Like, I need you to get on it. I'm like, bet. He's like, and if this works out, you know, there'll be other songs. There's other stuff I heard on your mixtape that I want to incorporate. Like, let's get it cracking. So I go back home. Aaron sends me the track. Like he said he would. It wasn't another 2-year wait. He like sent the track like soon after. And I got the track, and he texted me like, call me when you get it. So I called him. He said, listen, man, I want you to say, I know you don't know a lot about the show. You don't, you know, I can't really show you anything, but just make it. He said, I just want you to make it 30 seconds long. Don't mention any of the characters in the show. And don't say Boondocks, don't say any of that. And I want you to make it as black as you can possibly make it. And he just hung up the phone. Like he had to run or do something. He just hung up the phone. So I'm like, damn, all right, Aaron. Bet I'm gonna make this as black as I can possibly make it. And, so I started writing like blackity black, blackity. And I sent it to him, you know, and he called me like, nah, this is cool. He didn't say nah. He was like, yo, this is dope, but you know, it ain't got it's not there yet. Like write another one for me. So I'm like, all right, bet. Wrote another one, sent it to him. He's like, I can hear him like sounding pained on the phone, like, man, it's dope, but it's like, Ash, I'm sorry, man. It was just like, come on, you almost there. You almost got it. So I'm like, damn, all right, Aaron. Like, and there, you know, I always laugh at this part because when I tell this story, I'm always laughing because this is really how I thought in my head. I was like, yo, I know I'm dope. Aaron is fucking tripping right now. Excuse my name. I was like, Aaron is tripping right now, you know? So I write the third one. Then I call Blue Black. Like, yo, you want to get in on this? Like, let's do it. Let's write this theme song. So Blue Black comes in. He does 2 versions with me. We keep sending them to Aaron. And Aaron's like, nah, it's almost, man. You almost, come on, Aaron, you got it. And so he says no to all these versions. And the day that, the final day when I had basically had enough, we had done this shenanigan for like 3 weeks. So I was like, look, man, I'm going to go up the street. I like woke up on a Sunday. I was like, I'm going to go up the street. I'm going to lay this verse. Aaron, take this verse, forget it. I ain't doing it. And I go up the street. I go up there. I had a little Gabe with me at the time. I took a little Gabe up to the studio. I sat him on the couch, looked at Omar. I was like, listen, man, this is it. If you don't take it, when you don't take this one, you know, cancel.
It's a wrap.
Right.
So I go in there and I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual. And I sent it to him. And man, when I wish I had recorded his response, because he called me back screaming in the phone, like, this is the one. He's like, Ash, you don't understand, man. When you hear it and you see the bullet in the, he said, man, you're not, man. He said, man, just trust me, man. This is all I need. This is perfect. And I was just like so relieved. But at the same time, I was just like, all right, bet. Because, you know, that was it for me, bro. Right. And now, you know, what's funny, I was telling this story to somebody the other day, and they were like, yo, what's up with the other 6 versions, though? And I'm like, you know, I'm still looking for them. I got a spool of CDs somewhere that has them all on there.
Wow.
And they were like, well, you should make an NFT with your different versions.
Wow.
Like,
Right.
So, Stan, we had to talk about that. Both of y'all. We had to talk about that later.
Yeah, hey, we here to help, man. You know.
But yeah, they were like, yeah. And I thought about it. I was like, you're right. I should. But anyway, so doing that theme song ended up turning into Aaron calling me for songs on the regular. Like, he'd be like, you know, I got this episode called The Itis, and I want you to talk about like collard greens and cornbread, like eating at a black people's cookout. And I was like, all right. I wrote it. He's like, I got an episode with a pimp named Slickback. And,
yeah.
They got a sequence where they're chasing, and I was like, all right, cool. Like he would basically call me and paint the picture. And like, write something 30 seconds that does this.
Right.
And that's all. I was just a hired gun. I was just like, whatever he called me, you know. And then the last piece was when he did the Martin Luther King episode, and he basically took a song that I wrote that was on Insomnia, and he basically used the lyrics as the King speech in that episode. And that's the one that won the Peabody and all of that. Yeah. So everything came out of those years of me randomly bumping into Aaron, giving him the mixtape and all of that. It just all was, again, a long build up to that story over time.
Yeah. How did it feel like to get, I mean, of course, like, you know, being a part of that, but also like the Peabody Award of all things, you know what I mean? That's not something that you hear thrown around a lot amongst the hip hop community, you know what I mean? So like, how did that feel?
Man, you were the first rapper.
It felt amazing. Like, what? Like, are y'all serious? Like, I couldn't believe it. And for it to be for that particular episode, you know what I mean? Like, there were 15 episodes in that season for the King one to be the one that won, and that's like the one that's like the only one that I got co-writer credits on, and you know, that I participated in like that. It was a big deal, man. It's still a big deal. I got it up in the office right now. My Peabody is right here. This is it right here.
Wow.
It's crazy, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was a big deal, man. I think the only other MC to have a Peabody is Jay-Z.
Wow.
And Kendrick has a Pulitzer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is even crazier. To me, that's like amazing to have a MC win a Pulitzer Prize, bro.
Yeah.
You did that. You did that.
Yeah, with the Peabody,
all of these things, what it shows me is that, you know, we create the value. Like you know, this is the Boondocks was gonna be dope whether the Peabody came or not. You know what I'm saying? Right. But the thing is, it's one of those things. You know how Kanye used to say, I used to always laugh when I hear him say this. I heard him say one time in an interview, like, you not putting me on the cover, it messes up the credibility of your magazine. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, we add validation to the Peabody.
Right.
Versus the other way around, you know, and I think that's something that we got to remember. Like, they had no choice but to acknowledge it, and at the same time, it's like I said, we lend credence and credibility to the establishment, the people who award the Peabody, that they are even, you know, savvy enough to know that kind of stuff, you know. So yeah, no, that's definitely an honor, though. Definitely.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, it was so significant because I mean, everybody. I mean, if you were a fan of the Boondocks, you know of that episode. Like, if you don't know any other episode, you know of that episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So,
And you know, I wrote it out of such honesty and like frustration with niggas. Like when the song comes from a song called "Niggas" that was a tribute to the last poets. Niggas are scared of revolution. But when I wrote it, I was like frustrated with. I was just frustrated with niggas. Like I was mad, and I just wrote it down like, man. But like, and the other piece that people don't know is there's a second half to that song. So the first half is really pessimistic, like niggas. But then the second half is the optimism side. So it's like, no, this is also why I love them, why I love us. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that part never saw not the light on the show, but there's a full part to it. You know, it's not just in the back.
Right. Sounds like an opportunity.
I mean, and it's up on it's on streaming platforms, right? That's on.
Yeah. The song that he used.
Yeah, the song that he
right. All that stuff. Yeah.
That's what's up. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So that's how it happened, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many takeaways from that story and a lot of the opportunities that came from it. But and I know, I know what mine are, but what would you like based on your experience, both as a creative entrepreneur, as a recording artist, as a teaching artist, like what advice do you have for emerging artists?
I would just tell emerging artists to like live a full life experience. Like don't just only be the art that you do. Do other things that you can feed the art that you do. Like, and I don't mean money wise, I just mean like experience. Read a book, go out, travel, do different stuff that adds to what you're able to express, because sometimes we get trapped in, I gotta just, I'm an artist, so I gotta do this, I gotta do this. But what I learned, one of the big things I learned just through Guerilla Arts and watching some people transform is, I've seen people go from only being an artist with one stream of income that was totally dependent on being an artist in a city don't love us, okay, to being multifaceted, finding other streams and learning how to pivot and leverage what their talent and skill set is, so that they're not just dependent on this one thing. I look at being an artist like being a nonprofit. You got to write a lot of grants and ask a lot of people to donate, and you got to, but if you have other skill sets like y'all are a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like having multiple skill sets allows you multiple streams, you're not just stuck. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I would always stress to artists is find other avenues to project what you do and build, and also work on personal development. Like pick up a new skill, pick up some other stuff that will help propel what you're doing as your art. So for me, it was education. I was using education to like push hip hop out there, and then at the same time, I was using hip hop to push my education stuff. You know what I mean? So I was finding ways to, you just got to find ways to pivot your skill set. But you are the CEO of your talents and skills, and you just got to know how to, deploy what you got to deploy to get the job done. But don't get pigeonholed into just being a painter, or just a poet, or just be what they call multi-hyphenate. It's okay to be a multi-hyphenate. Don't call yourself a multi-hyphenate if you aren't one, but I'm saying you can work toward being one on many multiple levels. There's a lot of things people can do out here, and I'm seeing artists that have found ways to pivot, man. Teaching classes, doing workshops, doing virtual stuff, making making materials, selling goods. Like there's so many ways to flip it, but don't get stuck. Just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Sure. You know, that's really my biggest thing that I would push.
Yeah, that's a gem. That's a gem, man.
Yeah, keep moving.
You know, as a parent, you know, you're a father of four beautiful kids. How would you say fatherhood has changed your approach to art and being an artist, or how have they inspired your art?
I mean, you know, my kids are like they're like the weather vane. They tell me what is the temperature out here, what are we looking at, what's up. And so they put me onto a lot. You know, they put me onto a lot in terms of not just music, but like what kids are thinking about and talking about and doing, and perspectives that I just didn't know, you know. And it's not that I use that to make my music. It's just that it gives me it just allows me to put what I'm presenting, it allows me to put it in perspective. So like, for example, my music, like let's say The Sleepers in Soweto, right? The album. Sometimes my kid, like I've heard one of my kids has said to me, like, that's like reading a book, listening to this album. Right? And some people don't want to read a book, man. Some people just want to dance. They don't want to read a book. Some people can dance and read a book. That's who I make music for. But some people don't want to do all that, right? So it just kind of helps me see that perspective, like this is what, you know, and it really helped me understand, like, you ain't 20 no more, bro. Like you're a seasoned version of this now, you know. So that's what it helped me do. Help me really just put it in perspective and see it for what it is in the marketplace as it stands right now. But then also, I mean, you know, hip hop and just the work that I'm doing is just allow me to feed them. Like we just talked about that, right? Allow me to like support and take care of them, and so one feeds the other. It's like they help keep the machine running. I always joke that's my board of directors, the four of them. You know what I mean? If I'm like gone too long or too much, they tell you. If you like, you know, you didn't do this right or you forgot this, they'll tell you. So at the same time, if they like something you did or they give you the thumbs up, it's like that. All right, well y'all like it then. It's all good, you know. So it's that kind of thing. They're like my weather vane, like I said, and my board of directors because I work for them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's I
gotta do what they tell me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you know, you've as a youth worker and as an activist for youth and just the services and programs that you provide them, you essentially provide a safe space for at-risk youths, for those who have been marginalized, those who have been clearly struggling. What would you say has been one of your best accomplishments with working with the youth that you work with?
I think for me, it's just seeing them grow over time. Like it comes in phases. Like for me, seeing the light bulb go off is always something that I love to see. And I've seen that like in the work we've done. I've seen that working with Stan. I've seen like moments where the light bulb goes off, right, in a kid. But that's always something that's dope. It's kind of like when you got, like as a teacher, when you have your kids all reading something and then they're reading and it's quiet and then you hear them all turn at the same time, shh, and they're all just still reading. It's like that feeling. It's like see that they hear that light bulb go off. That's one. And then two is, like I was saying earlier, just watching them over time grow into being what they become. Like, I mean, there's one of the kids that I work with. This guy had a severe stutter. He was kind of shy, awkward, but he loved to write poetry. And kids would tease him like, why would you want to do something where you got to speak if you got to stutter? Like, why you keep trying to do this poetry? But the funny thing was, when he spit poetry, he didn't stutter.
Wow.
It was only when he had conversation. You know what I mean? And so that was one thing. Seeing that was dope. But then over time, I ended up going to a studio session in Alexandria to record a verse for somebody. And they sent me the address to go to the studio to go record. And I get to the studio, and who is the engineer? My man. He's the engineer. So he's now engineering me in the booth, like, all right, Mr. Ben. I was like, I can't believe you're the engineer. He's still calling me Mr. Ben. It's been 4 years. You know what I mean?
Right. Wow. That's dope.
It's like that kind of stuff. When you see that, it's like, man, you know, you see the impact that you were able to have over time. And it might not have hit them right then in the moment, but I love when I get hit, when kids follow up with me and they're grown now, like in their 30s, like first grade or whatever, you know, like I get Facebook hits like that all the time. And I'm like,
that's so dope.
Yeah, you like, no, you kids like me, you know what I'm saying? It's amazing. So I think that's why I never quit. Like I've quit teaching 3 solid times. I've walked away for real. And each time I got brought back, it's I can't leave it if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is my job. This is what I do. My assignment, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, I feel like you never really can leave it, right? Like because it's like once you like become a teacher or like be aware of the fact that you're a teacher, because technically we're all teaching, right? Whether we realize it or not, right? Because someone's watching you, someone's studying you. But like when you develop that skill set and once you set out to do it, no matter how many opportunities you get to do other things and stuff, it's just like, you know, every time I'm out, they bring me back in. You know?
Exactly. Right. Real. It's so real. I mean, there have been times, man, where I was like, I will never go back. Ever. You know, like kicking and screaming, I'll never go back.
Yeah.
Found myself right back in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't even get mad or frustrated. I just look at it again. It's just an affirmation. Like, dude, where do you think you're gonna go? Where do you think you're gonna do? This is what you're supposed to be doing. Stop running. You know, it's that kind of thing. But now I found a way to balance it. You know what I mean? And it's still hard, but I found a way to balance the work and what drives me in being creative. I wish I recorded more music, to be honest, but I'm sure that'll come once these things kind of settle in, and I'm trying to build something that, you know, will allow me to do that more freely. You know? But right now, I got this little studio space in Brooklyn and DC, and I'm just working out of here to create the next wave of teaching and learning and products, and services, and all of the stuff that we got rolling out this year.
Yeah, man. And shout out to your spot, because that's the first place that, you know, Substantial Art and Music ever had one of our workshops. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, man. You know,
So when we did that, it was at the American Poetry Museum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so since then, and they're still here. They're still here. They're still right around the corner. But since then, we gotten our own spot now. It's not as big. But we got a spot at Arts Walk as well for Guerilla Arts specifically.
That's awesome.
We would love to have y'all back. We can figure it out seriously.
Yeah. Now, you know we're with it, man. That's a no-brainer.
That's dope. Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, the last thing I wanted to ask was, how would you say being a performing artist has prepared you to be the executive that you are today?
I think being a performing artist entails a lot of, you got to pull in a lot of different elements to your performance or to your presentation. So coordinating the music, if there's visuals behind you, your playlist, what songs you're going to hit, what order. There's a lot that, you know, when I'm going to pause, allow for the crowd to do, when I'm going to let it breathe, when I'm going to freestyle, or just run an instrument. Like, you're putting together almost like a recipe, you know what I mean, for how you're going to present this performance. And that's kind of how I look at, you know, my leadership skill and just how I run my work. You know, it's a lot of calendar dates and lists and recipes for what I gotta get done, to-do lists, and you know, so it's that kind of thinking, and at the same time, it translates also into how I design curriculum. Like I'm looking at if we're teaching something on the Civil War, you know, I'm trying to find a YouTube clip, a movie from Glory, a clip from Glory, a excerpt from this Toni Morrison. I'm trying to find all the odds and ends that's going to talk about it in this way. And so it's all, I think it's all connected. It's, you know, I was saying earlier, like it's kind of how my brain is wired to at this point, because that's how I literally look at it, like in pieces. Even like when me and Stan was doing, like when we was preparing for like Blur Turner, any show, we run through our set lists. We know what video is gonna play when. We know A-Rock is gonna hit whatever. You know, like it's all, you know, like it's not script. I mean, it's scripted, but it also allows for you to call an audible and be impromptu if you need to. And I think that's the trick, is to be firm but still flexible enough that you got to change your course. And you know, and that's what happened with COVID. Like COVID for me, you know, with Guerilla Arts, all of our services are dependent upon working in schools and libraries and rec centers and all these places, and now they're all closed, right? And so we were like, well, how can we still do the work that we're doing if all these places are closed? We can't just do virtual art class or whatever. So we started this, we ran down this road, got some funding, and started what we're calling Outer Space Labs. And Outer Space Labs essentially is a COVID-safe outdoor classroom pod. So we put a structure outside of your building. The classrooms, everything is set up outside. The tech, the speakers, the mics, everything, seating. The kids still wear masks and they still socially distanced, but they get to be around each other physically, even if they're still working on their laptops or doing small group activities. But it's kind of creating like this outdoor WeWork kind of vibe that kids and get them engaged back into this. Because right now, engagement is so low, kids ain't even logging on. A lot of kids, they're not even tuned in. So like we're losing them. How do we get them back? And so we're trying to help schools re-engage and get their kids back, but doing it through a way that is flexible and allows for outdoor kind of COVID-safe experiences. And we're using like VR, Oculus goggles. We're using Google Expedition. Like we gotta, I mean, I keep saying we gotta talk, but we really do need to talk for real after this, because there's so much stuff going on. And I would love to get you all involved. I would love to talk to some of the other artists. And one of the sweet things that we're doing with this, so we got like 6 schools on deck right now, 6 high schools, middle schools around the city. But we're having a go-go van adopt each of the schools as a programming partner. So like,
that's dope.
I'm not saying this as like a formal announcement, but I talked to Big G, I talked to the people I need to talk to. But like, for example, like Backyard Band will be the programming partner for Kramer Middle. And so every time we had Kramer Middle, like imagine like Big G outside playing throw up tackle with some kids, or playing garden or whatever. Like that's what we're bringing to each one of the schools. We're gonna have one go-go band take on the school as a programming partner. And so we try just doing different stuff, man. We're trying to do something new. And like I tell schools all the time, you know, the school provides the anchor for a lot of our kids. It's where they get free breakfast, free lunch. They get to see consistent adults and spend time with people that they know and care about. But now that COVID severed that tie, you know, the kids that anchor is cut. So we're trying to find ways to build better anchors. That's really our whole thing, is how can we make these schools be better anchors for the kids that they hold down. And that's the goal. So Outer Space Labs.io is the website. If y'all go there, you can see what the classrooms will look like. And we're still adding new specs, because we just got new drafts from the architect. It's coming. You'll see it by the summer. Planted in these different schools. It's gonna be dope, man. So I'm excited for y'all to see that, and I really want y'all to get involved. Yeah, this is not just for the kids; it's for communities. It's for everybody.
That's awesome.
Man. You already know, man. You already know. But yeah, we're with it. And for everyone watching, a lot of the things that Gabe has talked about, that Asheru has talked about, you can find the links in the chat. whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. To those of you who are listening to the podcast, of course, you just heard him give you the links, but some of the other links, you can check out his website, guerilla-arts.com, and that's GUERILLA-ARTS.com for Guerilla Arts. And then also check out the Words Live platform, and that's Words Live. Words Live, pardon. With 2 eyes, wordsLivebeta.com, and that's with 2 eyes for live. And then also outerspacelabs.io is the outdoor classrooms that he mentioned. Brother, man. Hey, man, we appreciate you so much, bro. Like, it's been love from day one, man, and that's never going to change, man. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Love y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Love you too, man. Hey, and I wanted to, I don't know if you saw the comment that I put up on the screen from Tierra Bugs. She said that, Gabe, I used to be one of your grants managers at the DC Commission of the Arts. Everything you ever did in your grants for the youth was so amazing with great impact. Never ever stop, bro. Us teaching artists must keep giving youth our art. I know the pandemic. I'm struggling over here. It's really small, bro. I should have put it back on the screen to make my life easier.
I see it now. Thank you so much, Tierra. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, man.
Let's talk, Tierra. Like I said, we definitely anyone who's hearing this that is a teaching artist or has experience working with young people in informal learning, not just the 4 core subjects, please reach out. We got more than enough campuses that we're going to be expanding to. So we would love to hear from you. Just hit me up on any of those platforms that we just mentioned, and I'll hit you right back.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for those, and again, those of you that are watching, if you like what you heard today, please be sure to like and share with your friends. If you're from the DMV area and would like to get involved or learn more, again, please be sure to share, and we'll have, again, the information available in the description.
Absolutely. But again, man, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and close out this episode. Right. Yeah, man. And so this episode of Artistry, hey, man, appreciate you. But to everyone, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Just a quick heads up before everyone goes. We are doing a workshop this Saturday with Creative Suitland. And so for those of you who are up and coming artists, creative entrepreneurs that need more additional information to help further your career, definitely make sure you go get more information through our website, which is subartandmusic.com, and we hopefully we'll see you this weekend, and if not, we'll see you in 2 weeks for our next episode. All right, but thanks again, brother, and peace, everyone.
Peace.
All right, we're gonna take y'all out right about now-ish, like that. Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. This podcast has been brought to you by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartandmusic.com. You can also follow us on social media at subartandmusic. We'll see you soon, but talk to you soon. Peace.